All right, Emily, thank you so much for being on the first episode of the Afterschool podcast. Like this is such a special project for me, and I was so excited, not only for you agreeing to be on, but like your enthusiasm when I reached out. Just says so much about you, and I appreciate you being here. So for those of you that are just tuning in, this is a podcast where we talk to former teacher entrepreneurs, people that left the classroom searching for maybe something more, maybe another stream of income, and they created a business from nothing. And that's exactly what Emily has done here. So Emily, if you could just give like a quick, like 2 to 3 minute, like Cliff Note version of your story, and then we'll dive deep after that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be here. A huge part of my story is my journey from classroom to what I'm doing right now. So I'm excited to be able to share. So to make long story short, although this is really the longest story ever, I was a fourth grade teacher for 5 years. I taught fourth grade at 2 different school districts. I love fourth graders. Fourth graders are the best. I'm not sure what you taught or are teaching, but
I did a year of fourth. It's a great age. Third and fourth are my sweet spot.
They're so cool. They are so excited about elementary school things. You can totally be like dorky and do all the fun little stuff, but they're also becoming the little versions of who they're going to be. And I just think they're the coolest.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. And teaching is something that I had always wanted to do off and on. I remember in 3rd grade saying that I wanted to be a teacher. Then I went to college and tried out 1.5 million majors and just kept coming back to education. I absolutely loved working with kids. Summer camp was a huge part of my story, so it just was a natural fit. But even once I got into the classroom, I just kind of had this feeling like this isn't quite right, but I don't know what else to do from here. So I stayed in the classroom, like I said, for 5 years, 2 different school districts, which brought me back to my husband's farm. I was at a school district for the better part of a year before very unexpectedly changing careers. I happened to just be scrolling social media and saw an advertisement from our local YMCA. I wasn't looking to leave teaching. I thought I was going to be in the same very rural school district for the rest of my career. I saw a job posted for a director of youth and family development at a YMCA that I'd never stepped foot into. I was relatively new to the area. But I just knew. I got like full body chills, and I'm like, I don't know where this is going to lead, but I know that I need to pursue this. So on a whim, I like completely redid my teacher resume. I applied, interviewed, got the job, had to tell my superintendent the week before school started that I was leaving, which was a crisis, but it was the best decision I ever made. I got to meld so much of my passion for teaching while also building on my skill set, and we can dive into that more. But I was at our YMCA first as the director of youth and family development, and then as our senior program director for just about 4 years. And then I had a really high level of burnout in that job. Much like teaching, I had poured so much of myself into it. I was so passionate about the families that we served. I was so passionate about our mission. And I had learned so much. And I truly, truly loved my job, but just had this feeling like the season is coming to a close and I need to step into the next thing. So at the time I had been posting on social media under Raising Reuschel. I'd kind of been building a brand already just as a passion project. I am in the middle of nowhere. So I had really found a lot of value in pouring into other rural women. It had really helped me confidently step into my role as a farm wife and mom, and just all the joys and ups and downs that come along with that. And I had been on the tail end of a health journey and a personal growth journey that had completely transformed my life. And so I had this intersection of, okay, I think I'm ready to pursue something else, but what does that look like? And then I also have just like this really fun thing that I'm doing on the side. And I actually went to a retreat this summer. It was based on like rural women in entrepreneurship, more or less. And I had no idea why I even decided to go. I just knew for whatever reason that I needed to be there, which I feel like is how every great thing happens.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It just feels like it needs to happen. And while we were there, the women were like, wait, so you're already doing this thing that you're so passionate about. You can build a business around that. And I'm like, no. Like, I kept feeling like I needed to, like, open a pumpkin patch or, like, do something with tourism or, like, sell beef or something that seemed legitimate. Like, I can't just build a business online around, like, my personal brand. Well, surprise. The next day, I told my boss that I was leaving, which he and I had already had several conversations up until that point, so it wasn't a total shock. But I think the shock factor was that I had no idea what I was stepping into. I wasn't leaving for another position. I had no business plan. I just knew that this was right. So now I do one-on-one coaching. I facilitate women's masterminds. I do public speaking, and I am looking to host a retreat this year. I'm starting my own podcast, so I'm doing like
all of the things.
All of the things, which makes so much sense after being in the classroom, because that's what we do. We do all of the
exactly.
things. So yeah, I am like 4 months into that, and I can't say that I have it all figured out. It's been a wild ride, and I'm obsessed with it.
Well,
that's my
I love that, and there's so much there. I mean, you left 2 jobs in that, in the clip notes. But I'm so like kudos to you, hats off to you for making all of those moves. And I heard a lot of the cliche, but for right reasons why people don't take that leap. So I'm interested in diving into that. But let's go back a little bit. Let's rewind. You said something that I think a lot of people, and maybe a lot of this audience has felt too, like you were in the classroom and something just didn't feel right. Can we laser into that moment? Like, where were you in that? Like, how did you know, like, oh, like, maybe this isn't the long-term play for me?
Yeah, I don't know that I even was totally self-aware of it at the time. I just had little glimmers where something didn't seem quite right, which is interesting that I had that. I mean, I left teaching in 2017, so this was before anything that's happening right now has come into play. But the first issue
BC, before COVID.
Yeah, yes, that's so real.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I look at like my brothers and sisters who are still in the classroom, and I'm like, I don't know whether to be proud of you or terrified for you of everything. Yeah. But anyway, the district I was at was incredible. I worked with amazing people. It was very high performing. This was right when Common Core was coming into play. Mm-hmm. So we were basically like grabbing straws, writing our own curriculum. We were very much at the forefront of trying to figure this all out, which was an exciting thing to be a part of, but also, I'm sure as many people can relate to, very overwhelming. Teachers were even split of like, I'm going to stay at all hours and do all the things. And some were like, this isn't what I signed up for. Peace out. And here I am, a first-year teacher, just trying to figure it out. But it was very normal for me to be at school until midnight, or for teachers who were moms to go home, be a mom, and then come back until 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I kept looking around like, is this real life? I don't know, like, what is going on here? And then I moved to a different school district that was like on the total opposite end of the spectrum. Again, we're in a very rural area. It was a very small school, amazing people, mm-hmm. but that like get up and go that had been almost on one extreme at my old district was like quite the opposite. So I just found myself in this place of like, where do I fit in? Because I don't feel like it's in that burnout culture I was a part of, but at the same time, like, I'm not sure I can just show up in this way every day for the rest of my career. So I just kept feeling like, what does this even look like? Like, teaching is very much an identity career.
Yep.
As with a police officer or a nurse, like, we work so hard to accomplish this thing. We love it with our whole heart. Like, it comes from a point of service. So there's this huge guilt complex that comes from even considering something else. And so I can't necessarily pinpoint one thing. It was like when I stepped away from teaching into working for a nonprofit, which, isn't even like going from teaching to corporate, that I was actually reflective of how much in teaching was not normal for the workforce as a whole. So
Yeah, you have to get out of it to actually see it and to feel it and just separate yourself from it. I totally agree. Now, was it at that point when you moved to the YMCA where you started on your kind of personal development journey, or did you dabble in that while you were still in teaching?
no, I was not in teaching whatsoever. I was just like keep on keeping on, like showing up every day, burning myself out. I mean, the majority of my time in the classroom was before I had kids. Obviously, I was pregnant with my son in my last year of teaching, but I hadn't had to do the balancing act. So me just pouring everything into my classroom and into my career was not affecting, anyone other than myself and my husband to some extent. But it was really when I started working at the YMCA and started being given these professional development opportunities that I had never experienced. I had a boss who was very invested in personal growth, who pushed me outside my comfort zone to listen to podcasts or read books or go to trainings or go to like long-term professional development where we'd meet like every month. And I'm like, what is this world that I didn't even know existed? And having someone pour so much into me rather than the expectation of I just keep working and taking on more and more and more. And someone that just like routinely checked in with how I was doing was like, what is this life? So that really was the stepping stones that got me into personal development, which is now really the brand that I'm building is all personal growth for rural women. So it's something I'm so passionate about.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to have personal development come into my life while I was still in the classroom, maybe 5 years ago. And it was then where I realized, just like you said, like, this is weird, but, and no one else is doing it in that field. And I think a big part of that is because we have so much of professional development, shoved down our throats in education versus personal development. And I think there's a big difference there. And, people are just so worn out, they don't have time to fill up their own cup, which is leaving everyone walking around empty.
At least in my experience, I would even take it one step further. It's not even professional development. It's like how to do more so you can do your job better. Not like pouring into yourself as a professional, but like, here's this new list of things you need to do or a new strategy you need to try. There's so much of you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. Like there's constantly this feeling of I'm not doing enough, even if I'm here until midnight, literally doing everything.
I agree. So can you, and maybe just before we move on to the kind of your next part of your story, can you just kind of try to articulate the importance of personal development? I know we'll talk about you do you, but just the importance of personal development for people in education specifically and how important that is for your mind, body, and soul.
Absolutely. I mean, when I started getting invested in personal growth, it was like opening a window to a world that I didn't know existed. I learned so much about myself, specifically even just with discovering the Enneagram, which is like a personality typing system where you fall within like these kind of categories. And it really comes back to your intrinsic motivations. Like it's not something you necessarily change. And as opposed to some other personality systems, it's more of a growth tool to help you recognize how and why you do the things that you do and how to grow from there. And there were so many parts of like my personality or who I was that I just thought were abnormal or flawed or something I need to change. And so specifically diving into the Enneagram was like, oh no, these are actually just like my natural like gifts and talents. And if I step into that and understand where my blind spots are, like I can get myself further. But even just in personal growth in general, being able to read books or listen to podcasts that help expand my mindset, think about the world in a different way, and focus on taking care of myself first. That was the biggest mindset shift in my life and in career. Was I had been so accustomed just from school and from family and from career to just giving and giving and giving and serving and putting myself so far last that I had been burnt out beyond any stretch of the imagination. So the biggest mindset shift for me is I have to take care of myself first if I want to pour into the other people around me and show up for the life that I love.
I love that. And like just observing even just the short time from when I made my decision to step away from the classroom, and I'm in this communities on social media of teachers that are unhappy. I looking from the sidelines, I just feel like just their belief. They're just they just do not believe in themselves to the point where I'm sure they're not practicing what they're preaching in the classroom, because I'm sure they're great teachers telling their kids, to believe, to look at all of your unique skills and traits. And they just don't have the belief in themselves to follow the path that's going to lead them to feel better or to be happy or to do whatever they want to do. So I believe in all this so much that they just need a little tweak in their framework on how the world actually works and what they have to give to it outside of this, ecosystem that is education.
I think that's such a good point. And I know that I really struggled with this too, is, well, I'm not qualified to do anything else. Everything that I know is teaching. Like, that's all I've been trained to do. That's all I know how to do. When in reality, when I stepped away from the classroom and into the nonprofit space, which functioned more corporate than the classroom, it was like I had this explosion of skills and like ability to balance things that was so foreign to the general workforce. Like the macro and micro decisions that teachers make throughout the course of the minute, the hour, the day, the week, the month, like we can look at a big plan and the smallest detail and take care of everyone in so many different ways that it's like that. And then public speaking, organization, like developing a plan, how we're going to get there, goal setting. Like we have such a wealth of skill set that we don't even recognize that we have because we just show up and do it. It's just the expectation.
Let's stay on that for a second. Was there like a moment or a conversation you remember having with someone in corporate when you were like, whoa, like I have a lot to offer here?
Yeah,
or was it just a gradual kind of like, oh, I'm doing this and this and this, like this is easy for me?
It was kind of a progression. I remember a few specific moments. I had the opportunity to take part in a local nonprofit leadership academy, which was led by just a genius of a woman in the nonprofit space here. And so we were working through all of these things, and I had a cohort that I was going through this experience through over the course of a year. And we would dive into these topics. Now, this was like 3 years ago, so don't ask me to get too specific. But we dive into these topics, and all these people were talking about all the ways that they were struggling or grappling with this. And I'm like, oh, like, I got this. Like, there were just so many times that I'm like, I may not have the same experiences and background that you guys have, but like, I have a lot more to bring to the table than I ever gave myself credit for. And that was a really startling and beautiful realization.
That is amazing. I'm so happy you said that, because I think so many people need to hear that. We're just, teachers are used to having someone with their arbitrary checklist telling them, okay, this is what you're doing, this is what you're not doing, this is where you need to be, and not looking at all of the things that you do and skills you have that you do every day. It just goes unnoticed and unappreciated, frankly. So I'm so happy you said that. So what was the level of confidence, you say, transitioning from teaching to corporate? I know you said it felt good, but as far as taking that step, where would you say your mindset was for that first jump?
Like I said, I saw that I had not been looking for jobs. I was not considering a career change. Like, I saw the job posting. I had this like full body gut feeling I needed to go for it. And there was a level of imposter syndrome that came with it. But at the same time, I wasn't leaving the classroom for something totally foreign. Like, the basis of my position was our summer camp program, our after school program, youth and family programming and special events, which I had experience planning special events working at a winery while my husband was in college. So like the nitty gritty part of my job, like the things that the public saw or the programs I was responsible for were very much in my wheelhouse, but I was letting go of some of that like day to day of the classroom.
Okay.
But at the same time, all of a sudden I was responsible for managing a team, balancing a budget, doing my own marketing. And so all of that was very unfamiliar to me. I had no experience in anything whatsoever. So that was definitely a learning curve. But I had a boss who was very invested in helping me through that. And, you know, I knew how to run my programs well. It was just kind of learning all of those other little pieces that just kind of fell into place. The more experience I got, the more coaching I got, the more I just kind of saw how things worked or didn't work. And the further I got along in that position.
So you are starting at this point, somewhere in this part of your journey, you start a side little passion of to fill your personal growth, you know, longing for that. And talk to me about that, how it started in the gradual process.
So when COVID hit, my position at the Y got basically turned on its side. You know, our facility was closed, my programs weren't running. So that was a really unique experience because we pivoted, like basically went fully online. I started teaching group exercise classes, like all these wild things I had never done, which was coming at a time that I was pretty burnout. So that was exciting. And I had been living at our farm for several years, and I had just been really craving connecting with other people. And I had started following these people on my own personal Instagram. And again, for a reason I can't explain, I feel like this is a common theme in my life. For a reason I can't explain, I was like, I just feel like I need to be a part of this conversation. So raising Reuschel came from the notion that I was raising kids on the farm. We were raising crops, raising animals, and then also just raising myself, you know, like being on my own personal growth journey. I was really passionate about leadership. So raising leaders, you know, it all kind of was the spin on that terminology. And so I just started doing it. My job was pretty well at a lull at that point because we were pivoting to all online. I wasn't doing as much stuff face-to-face in person. So I was, as I think many people were at that time, very much just craving connection and
Absolutely.
to be surrounded by people. So I just kind of jumped in and started, and it's been incredible.
So just for context for the audience, Raising Reuschel on an Instagram account, were you on any other platforms or you were just documenting your journey on Instagram?
It was at that point still Instagram. I think it was around this time last year that I actually made a Facebook page, but basically I'm just kicking everything straight over to Instagram.
Gotcha.
And then in the fall of last year, I started a private Facebook group I was doing like a pretty popular habit challenge. I invited some friends and family to do it with me. And then it exploded within the course of those 3 months. And then when we got to January, we were all kind of looking at each other like, okay, we want to continue this community, but we've already done that thing. We need something else. So that's where this idea was born for a habit challenge that I created called You Do You 82, which is a personalized habit challenge where members of our community choose 6 habits to intentionally work on for 82 days that can be related to literally anything. It could be health, nutrition, relationships, career, organization, goal set, like just a myriad of
finances.
anything.
I saw, yep.
Yeah, a little bit of anything. And that's where the You Do You comes from, because we had all recognized like we're on our own journeys. We need different things. We're at different points in our journeys, but we love this reason to be together and be in community and support each other. So it is fully customizable. The only qualifications is that the habits are something that you can actually achieve every day. They're attainable. So if you've never ran before, you're not going to like run 6 miles every day, obviously. They need to be something you can be consistent with, that are like pushing you outside your comfort zone, but nothing too crazy. And we just intentionally work on them for 82 days together. Anyone can start anytime. So someone who's listening could literally jump in tomorrow, totally free, just a way to pour into yourself and hold yourself accountable. So that started this time last year, and it has just snowballed since.
I love it. And I love, you know, you could definitely see your teaching background. They're very tangible resources. You know, you could print out the worksheets and do it. Question, because I know a lot in education we hear this, like go deep, go deep, go deep. Is there any rhyme or reason to why we would choose 6, you know, realms of our life versus, choose one?
Yeah, no, this is such a good question. And there is not as methodical as a reason behind it as you might think. The habit challenge we had been doing was 5 habits. There was another one we were considering that is very hardcore that was 7 habits. And so I'm like, I feel like we need something that's in the middle of those two things. So that's where we landed on 6 because it was quite literally in the middle.
I love it.
And that's where the 82 days came from, because it was directly in the middle of those two. And then the teacher me was like, I always say you do you, 82 days, you do 82. It sounds great. Because, when you're a teacher, everything has to sound good.
Sure.
And have a good, like you said, it's great. And we are so much our community mantra is progress over perfection. As people, maybe even as teachers, or maybe even as students, we have this gold star mindset, this A+ mindset. I need to be the very best that I can be. I'm going to do the thing. And then life kind of gets hard. And so we don't do it as perfectly as we think we're going to. So we're like, yeah, maybe that's just not for me. Maybe I should just not.
Mm-hmm.
So much of what my community works through is that mindset of just stand back up and try again. Every minute of every day is the opportunity to commit to yourself and to your goals. It doesn't matter what yesterday looked like. It doesn't matter if you had the craziest week of your life and you didn't fill in a single box. Stand back up, try again, because every ounce of progress is still forward momentum.
I love that. And I think teachers are very used to setting goals, but like you said, not for them, not to make their mind, body, and soul better and stronger and happier. I love that. As far as community, I want to talk about the community for a second, because the first piece of advice I ever got in graduate school when I was going to become a teacher was, do not go into the teacher's room, which do not eat lunch with the teachers. And that was funny in a way, but there's a lot of truth to it. There's a lot of toxicity among teachers and schools. There's a lot of venting. There's a lot of just pent up energy where they deal with, they're alone, not alone, but they're with their kids all day, and they don't, they haven't gone to the bathroom in 7.5 hours, and they just need to vent. And they leave, and then maybe they vent at home, and there's no real choice, or there's no real outlet for them to have a positive community. Talk to me about how someone could benefit from what you got going on.
There's a lot to unpack here. Wow. That is so true. And I was given the same advice, and I understand where that comes from. And isn't it so interesting, at least in my experience, that so much of the toxicness of our environments is co-created by the people that we're with. And we are all in this just pit of misery. And it breaks my heart, because you have these so deeply passionate educators that want to do incredible work in the world, who care so much about their students, who are truly there to show up and make a difference. But we get so overwhelmed and stressed and bogged down and have no outlet that it becomes this hustle culture of negativity sometimes. Sure. So I've definitely had teachers who are in my community who have expressed things like that. I just need a positive place where people can tell me that this is possible, and I can just hear good things, and I can be poured into, and I can pour into others without this overwhelming stress and weight that's on me during the workday.
I love that.
And I'll give 100% credit to the women in my community. We are a space of positivity and realness. It's not toxic positivity. We're not here pretending life is sunshine and roses, but we acknowledge the hard days exist, while also helping build each other up in a way that allows us to progress forward, accept the things that are, that happen to us, but also approach them from how is this for me? From an optimistic, truly cheerleading each other along this journey of life.
Yeah, that's amazing. So important. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And, that's something that I feel in my short journey of personal development is so true. And so that's the first thing teachers need if they're going to make this transition to do something else, whether it's go to a corporate job or to embark on their passion and create a business out of it, they need that positive interaction, positive community that they can do it. Because when I have conversations, they're just like, they have, so many of them just have this dead end mindset where it's like, I can't do that. Like, I'm here, like, this is what I'm doing. But they love to cook, or they love to sew, or they can sing or play, they have so many talents that they could ultimately cash in on it. And, I really love this, how you're creating this community for them. You mentioned something earlier that you had some negative thoughts, how you couldn't do it because of where you lived, the proximity of the rural. But you've kind of flipped that and turned it into a positive. Let's talk about that, because I am willing to bet that if I talk to 10 teachers about embarking on their passion, turning their hobby into a business, they would give me a reason why they couldn't do it. And it sounded like that was your reason. Let's unpack that for a second.
Absolutely. I mean, even from leaving teaching and the second time leaving the YMCA, I'm sitting here in the middle of nothing. Like, town is 45 minutes from me. The town that I was working in is like 25. So any career change that I made was going to be a total lifestyle overhaul from our family, just from a logistical standpoint. And there are only so many things to do that, first of all, I'd be qualified for. Second of all, that I would even be interested in, would be worth my time, would be, a pay jump that I deserved or whatnot. So, looking around in both situations, it's like, what else is there here for me? Like, I'm not in a more urban area where there are a wealth of opportunities. Now, we are in a situation, because of what's transpired over the last 2 years, that work from home is more abundant than ever. And I actually got pretty far with talking to some nonprofits that were fully remote based. So that was very cool, and is, I think, a legitimate option for some teachers to consider, like what work from home opportunities there might be if entrepreneurship isn't the draw at this point, or they don't feel ready for that step. Is there's a lot more remote things that teachers can do than there ever have been before.
Absolutely.
But going back to your original question, I think that in a lot of ways, the proximity we have to town, or logistically speaking, that very much could have been a barrier for me. Well, there's nothing else I can do. It's too far away. There are no other options. I very much could have gotten trapped in that mindset. But it's interesting how I took that and like, okay, so I'm going to build a business around that, because I am not the only woman that feels this way. And I am so passionate about helping rural women tap into their potential and build lives they love, no matter what they're doing, where they are. We have the ability to control what our life looks like. I think for a long time, I was trapped in the mindset of, this is all happening to me. This is my circumstance I was given. This is what I have to work within. No, every single thing about our life, every single part of our day, we get to choose. And if we are stuck in that vicious mindset, that cycle, like, that is also a choice. And not to say it's easy to break out of, but we also are in control of our life way more than we give ourselves credit for sometimes. Oh,
yes. Amen. Like, people need to hear that big time, like on repeat, especially teachers. I know, like, we're just so used to the noise and like a busy classroom and being able to control everything. But like, if that stops, like, people sometimes don't know how to navigate just their own thoughts and their wants and their needs and their struggles. And oh man, now more than ever, we're with this burnout culture and like people leaving and not knowing what to do. Like, we just need that. People need to reflect and think about what they actually want to do.
I think that's even more ever present in the classroom, because at this point, we are so used to everyone telling us what to do. We are given minimal autonomy, or the ability to kind of play within the rules and make it our own. But on a professional level in education, we are not given the choice of what our daily life looks like to a grand capacity. So to even imagine what life is like outside of that is a totally different mindset shift.
Totally, like culture shock, I imagine. Now, was that hard for you now that you're kind of, creating your own schedule, like between your professionally and your family and everything? Talk to me about that.
Going from the why to teaching, or going from teaching to the why, for the first time, had given full autonomy in my position, with the exception of like, obviously some things that were my responsibility. It was like, I don't care how you do it. I don't care what your process looks like. You choose the dates, you choose what you're going to do. And I was like, what? Even planning a summer of summer camp, it's like, I'm not following a curriculum. I'm not doing any of this.
Nope.
It was terrifying, and it was so liberating. And just even the most silly things, like, oh, I want to do such and such activity for a school out day. Like, I'll just like run to Walmart after work and grab what I need. And my boss was like, you have a budget. Like, you can take the credit card. And I was like, wait, what? Like, even moving into my office, I'm like coming with boxes of highlighters and like Sharpies and like my own paper.
What are you doing?
And everyone's looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, we have office supplies, and if we don't have what you need, like, you can buy it. And this is like, I'm working at a nonprofit where everyone feels like, we're strapped.
Right.
And I just like that mindset of having the supplies taken care of was culture shock in itself. Like, how silly is that?
I believe it. It's almost like people that are in prison for decades and then come out to the real world. It's like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
What is this life?
Imagine telling a doctor that they had to buy their own stapler. Like, how ludicrous.
But
we just accepted it. 100% accepted it.
Yeah, and that's a whole other conversation. So as far as, you created something from nothing with You Do You 82. There's a lot of that goes into, being an entrepreneur, creating a program, creating a product, anything. What's a mistake you made, or what's something that a piece of advice that you would give to someone making that move from the classroom to being your own boss, having your own business?
I think that a mistake that I'm still making, but I'm actively fighting, is we all grapple with some level of imposter syndrome or insecurity, or I can't do this, or I'm not qualified for this, or I'm not doing this well enough. And like, in everything in starting your own business, it is all just stepping into what you already know how to do and having the confidence to just take it to the next level. Like, the biggest bottleneck for entrepreneurs is ourselves. It's not an external force. It's having the confidence, the time management, just the gumption to do the thing. Like, just do it. That's something that I am aware of and still working.
It's a process. It's a process. So You Do You 82 is you said a free program that people can join. Now, what's the next step? They're part of the community that they want to take the next step. What happens?
Absolutely. I have some women in our community who have done the challenge one time and been like, that was amazing, and they're still cheerleaders in our community. I have some women who have done this challenge 4, 5 times now. Like, they've been with me from day one and just keep doing it because they love the intentionality. They love being part about something. They love having a reason to turn inward and focus on their growth. And they may keep some of their habits the same. They may sub in new ones as they've mastered them, because obviously that's the point of the program is the habits, after about the 3-month mark of building habits, they just become part of who you are. So there's something you don't even have to think about. So to watch their trackers progress over the year and what they're focusing on now versus January of 2021 is very, very cool. And we have some women who are just huge cheerleaders and trying to get their friends and family to be a part of it because they know how much it has helped shift their mindset and helped their personal growth, just to have that tool for accountability and just that community to raise them up. Now, I do some one-on-one coaching with women who would like to just have that really intentional growth. And I have clients who are in a myriad of life situations. I have young professionals navigating career changes. I have, women in later stages of life who are, just kind of figuring out where they're at right now or working through things related to their health. I have women about my age who are going through massive life changes, like buying whole nother farms and trying to figure out what it looks like to incorporate into that family life. So some of the coaching I do is built around, establishing these habits and routines that's kind of stem from the challenge. But really, we take it the direction of what my clients need and what they're doing. One of mine is like building a personal brand of her own. And she's like, I've been with you since you started this. And I'm so inspired about how you got from point A to B to C to like whatever point I'm at now. She's like, I just want you to show me how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I let myself not have it all figured out and just step into like what my client is seeking me for, because they're here for a reason and they see a part of themselves in me and know that I can help them to some capacity. So I've tried to let go of the expectation that I need to have a lesson plan or I need to have a game plan.
Yes.
I need to have a
Yep.
and just like having faith that who I am and what I'm building and the unique experiences I'm bringing to the table is enough to truly drive the level of impact I'm interested in making. And it's been like, talk about overcoming imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Stepping into coaching has been awesome, but that's what teachers do. We coach all day, every
Exactly.
day.
That's what's running through my mind. Like, how many times have you sat down beside a kid at a desk and coached them up on multiplication or coached them up on, reading comprehension, whatever, like endless hours. So it comes natural. And I think the thing that it's hard to replicate in anyone is just the heart of a teacher and the why they're doing what they're doing in the first place. No one gets into teaching to make a big bag of money. It's the intent is there and clear. So I think it's just kind of getting all of these other cobwebs out, their mindset, et cetera, to clear the way for them to do what they actually want to do. And
I think that's so interesting as I look at the 3 careers I've had now up until this point. To someone who doesn't know anything about me or my story, they seem very disconnected. Like you bumped from the classroom to working for a nonprofit to being an entrepreneur. But when I look at the progression of what that looked like, it all comes back to relationships, community, like building impact, helping people achieve a result or be the best version of themselves or be brought together in some capacity. Like that has been fluid through everything I've done in my career. And that's what really like sets my heart on fire for the work I'm doing now, is that I'm pulling in the core reason I ever chose to be a teacher or that I ever had a heart for my position at the Y in a way that serves an entirely different demographic of people. This is the first time since I was probably 12 that I'm not directly responsible for kids other than my own.
Yeah.
Which was also really weird.
So the last thing that I want to add, or one of the last things I want to ask you, I think it's going to help a lot of people. They get to the point where, okay, I want to do this. I love baking or whatever service they're going to provide or product. They come up with a business plan. They make an Instagram, and they get to this point where it's like, oh, I need to make money. I need to charge for this product or service. And that's where I think a lot of people get caught and stuck. Specifically teachers, because they were never paid what they're worth. Let's be honest. So and you don't need to share any details that you're uncomfortable with, but how did you go about being able to price your time, your services appropriately without shorting yourself and being able to know that I'm providing a value in exchange for this amount of money?
Right, and that's something I'm still working through. My husband and I agreed that the second half of 2021, when I was stepping into this, would be several months of kind of just figuring it out. Like we didn't put any expectation that I would hit a dollar amount or anything. We arranged our finances to support me just like taking messy action. So I will preface that I was in a very blessed situation to be able to do that. But now approaching the new year, I'm like, okay, like either I'm going to have a very time-consuming hobby or I'm building a business. So I am in the thick of what does it look like to financially goal set for a year, because I've never had to do that. And in my 2 previous careers, like, I was not making money. So now I have this opportunity where I have this unique skill set, and I would like to financially provide for my family on a greater capacity. That's not what drives why I do the things that I do. I'm not a financially driven person. I'm an impact driver. But at the same time, again, is this a hobby or is this a business?
Mm-hmm.
So I really had to get my own ego out of the way, get my own imposter syndrome out of the way. I had to talk to women who were already doing things that I was doing, maybe not on the exact same train, but who were coaching or who were doing public speaking or who were hosting retreats, and just talk through, what are your price points? What do they look like? And I kind of took in a lot of information from a lot of people that I respect, and then priced myself according to what I was comfortable with, because I didn't want to sell myself short, because I know that I do have a level of expertise. I know I do bring a certain amount of value to the table. But at the same time, I had to do what I was comfortable with in a way that also made it worth my while. So I'm still figuring out what that looks like for the year. It's actually something I would like to do by the end of January, is like make a legitimate like financial business plan, which is like weird for me, but we're going to do it because we can do hard things.
That's right.
It's part of the process. So yeah, I've been just kind of tiptoeing into it and giving myself permission to not know, and asking a lot of questions and stepping into the confidence of, I do deserve this. And
there it is.
I started reading books on money mindset, because that's just something that was never taught to me or something that was valuable to me. So I've been kind of in, like, that's been a really high focus of my personal growth over the last 2 months or so, is like, what does it look like to build a money mindset from someone whose entire career has been built around something that's not financial literacy, so to speak.
That's right. So yeah, it's baby steps. It's a process, and progress over perfection, like you said. And I think there's so many parallels between teaching and entrepreneurship. And I know as teachers, we put all this time into fancy, nice lesson plans, and we're okay if we have to be fluid and kind of navigate through that. The same thing is in this life. Just because this is what you say you're going to charge, or this is what you say you're going to do, that doesn't mean you can't, make a pivot somewhere. So, and not judge yourself doing it. So, this has been so great. Last two quick things. Give me one, think about a typical teacher. Give me one reason why a typical teacher would not be successful in the entrepreneurship field.
Ooh, love this question. I have to put myself back to who I was in the classroom. And I was going to say I had a lot of confidence when I was doing in the classroom, but actually I grappled with a lot of not enoughness when I was a classroom teacher. So I think that for someone to leave the classroom for entrepreneurship, there needs to be a level of confidence in, I do have what it takes, and I have the skill sets. We think about teachers, like I said, we're making so many micro and macro decisions a day. We can balance so many things at once. We're thinking about everything and all of the things, which, like you said, is such a beautiful parallel to entrepreneurship, because you're a one-man show thinking about and doing all of the things. So there has to be that level of confidence that what you're stepping into feels right and feels aligned, and that you're ready to take that jump. Because if you let those insecurities and imposter syndromes get in the way, like, that is going to be the bottleneck. And I don't know that I could have gone straight from classroom to entrepreneurship. I think I had a very necessary middle ground where I was making like a lateral transfer of skills while also building up this skill set that has really served me in entrepreneurship, that I would have very much fumbled through had I gone straight from one to the other.
I love that. And every journey is unique. All right, now that was more the bad news. Let's hear the good news. What is a reason that a typical teacher would be successful as an entrepreneur?
We have so much in our back pocket than we give ourselves credit for. Kind of like I said, even on the negative side, like, we can do so many things. We are capable and have been trained, and just through everyday lived experience, to handle situations, to plan, to adapt, to impact, to care so much deeper than the general workforce is prepared for. So teachers grapple with this level of like, I can't do anything else. Oh my gosh, if you can do a little bit of research on how to market what you know, you will be the greatest gift to any employer in any field that calls to you, because you just have a can-do attitude. You can take something out of nothing and turn it into literal life-changing magic with like no expectation. Like, it is mind-blowing what we are capable of. So whether that next step looks like entrepreneurship, or that looks like stepping into the nonprofit sector, or that looks like stepping into corporate, like, you are ready to hit the ground running if you can, have the confidence to do so, which you should, because you can.
Bingo. I love it. And that's where your program, I think, would just change so many lives, and just change the trajectory of people's paths, in this niche, in this audience. So you do 82 is the program, free program. Where can we find you online, and where can we learn about this program and hop in?
Absolutely. So both on Facebook and Instagram, you can find me at Raising Reuschel. So that's Raising, Raising. Reuschel is my last name. Why I decided to build a personal brand off that is mind-blowing, but it's Reuschel. Again, that comes back to raising crops, raising babies, raising animals, raising ourselves, raising other women, like all the things. So Raising Reuschel. We have a private Facebook group for UDU82. You can also find all of that information on my Instagram page. Check out the highlight bubble, search the hashtag. I'm in the process of building my website. All the joys that come with entrepreneurship. It's a lot to learn and figure out. So within the next several months, there will be a more consistent landing page that I can direct people to for that. But again, I'm not going to let all these things I wish I had figured out hold me back. It's all about taking imperfect action and moving forward. You don't have to have it all figured out to build a brand or a business that impacts people.
I love it. And I don't think there's a better driver, a better conductor for people that are thinking about making these moves in their life, even if they don't want to start a business, but just thinking more outside the box of their current situation in the classroom. I don't think there's a better conductor than someone that has actually been there, someone that's actually walked in their shoes and can just understand at a different level. This kind of camaraderie, I think, is super important. So Emily, thank you. You're the sweetest for doing this. I love your soul. I love your information and what you're trying to put out in the world. So thank you for staying after school with us. And we
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
Have the best day. Bye-bye.
I will. You too.